and roll, Chicago. Rock and roll, Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best you're ever around.
Hey, this is Paul Martin
And Ray the Roadie.
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. How are you, Ray?
I got a whole lot of shaking going on.
Yeah, you do.
I do.
Shake it, shake it.
And it ain't because
Like
of
a
this beer
Polaroid
belly.
camera. Huh?
Shaking like a Polaroid camera.
Why would they say it's shaking like a Polaroid camera? I don't get that.
No, it's shake it like a Polaroid picture.
Polaroid picture. Oh, that's right.
Those later edition Polaroids, when the camera came out, they told you to shake it to, I guess whatever it did to the chemicals so the picture would come out.
So it helped develop the picture, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I'm talking about other kind of shaking, man. Poodle skirts, DAs.
Poodle skirts, duck's ass hairdos, right?
That's right.
That's right. I like my pompadour. I got it going on tonight.
That's very nice. I like that. You were working on that all morning, haven't you?
Yeah, yes, I have. All day. It took this long to get it to look like this.
What do you use? Dippity doo?
Yes, dippity doo. That was an old Johnny Carson skit.
I know.
Karnak.
Yeah, what was that?
He would hold the envelope to his head and he said, dippity doo. And Ed McGregor go, oh, dippity doo. And you read the question, you open up, read the question. What forms on your dippity in the morning?
Paul's going to be at Zany's all weekend this weekend. Make sure you get out to see him.
That's right. Like the guy that stole the toilets out of the police station. Police have nothing to go on.
Oh, oh my God. We should stay away from comedy.
Yes, we should. Yes.
And go back into the music world.
Okay. All right. Who are we interviewing this week? No, we finally get around to it.
If we have time. No, this week we did Joe Cantafio of Jade 50's.
I think it's Cantafio.
We'll find out.
I screwed up his name. So now I know it's Cantafio.
Okay, Joe, it's Cantafio.
Of Jade 50's. And he founded the National Veterans Museum, which will be coming to Chicago soon. And he's just been kind of a busy guy these many years. Yeah,
that Jade 50's, boy, they were a very busy band. I mean, I'm very familiar with them. I liked them back in the days when they played around here, but I never realized that they were so national, that they played everywhere all over the country. Right. And we're Dick Clark's backup band. It's crazy.
Yes, it was. Well, let's get to Joe and find out some of the stories. He has some great stories to tell us. Let's hear all about him.
Let's go.
We're speaking today with Joe Cantafio. There we go.
How you doing?
Good to talk to you. So tell us.
Cantafio, is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was Cantafio.
Yeah. Never mind. I know. It took me about 4 or 5 tries.
Well, actually, if we were in Italy, it would be Cantafio. But we're in Chicago, so it's Cantafio.
All right, there we go.
So you're both right.
Yes. I told you, Joe. I told you, Paulie.
So you're using your hands. That's good.
So, Joe, you started out years ago playing with Jade 50's, right?
Yes.
You started the band. Tell us about how that got started.
The band, we were a high school band. I decided to run for class president so that I could book my band to play all the dances, and it worked. And that's the true story. And in about May of 1973, my senior year, our history teacher, Tom Graziano, said, I'd like you guys to play some 50's music for a dance that we're going to do on Friday. We're going to teach 50's arithmetic and history from the 1950s that whole week. We're calling it Decades Week. And we'd love your band, Jade, to perform. So we were like, I don't know, I want to have 50's music. He goes, I'll get you out of school for the whole day. we'll do it. So we slicked our hair back. And fortunately for us, a week before we went on, Sha Na Na was playing at the Erie Crown Theater. So we all bought our $10 tickets and went down to Erie Crown and watched Sha Na Na. And we put some choreography together and slicked our hair back. And we had a blast playing oldies music. Well, the Chicago Daily News at the time put me on the front cover. By the time we got to school on Thursday of the following week, this was on a Friday, so by the next following Thursday, there was over 100 letters written to our school saying, we want to do the same thing you did. We want that band. How do we do this? So the history teacher said, I think we can make some money, boys. So he became our manager.
Really?
And yeah, so he started.
Oak Park River Forest High School?
Oak Park and River Forest High School, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So Tom Graziano and Jim Locke at the time. Jim managed us for about a year, and then he had another baby, and this wasn't up his alley. But Tom Graziano stayed with us, Tom Duke Graziano, for a long time, and got liftoff for Jade 50's. We hooked up with a few, we hooked up with Blytham. You remember those guys out of Champaign, which is Bob Nutt and Irving Azoff. Right. They were our agents we decided to go agencies in areas. We didn't want one agent. In the Chicago area, though, we worked with 3 or 4 agencies. John Orzel everybody worked with John Orzel. Sure. And Paramount, Art Goldsmith, who booked us, and with Al Curtis, booked us at the State Fair and all the big corporate parties downtown. And then Ken Adamani and Chuck Toller, Adamani and Toller, took us all over the United States. They had Cheap Trick. They had Dr. Bop and the headliner, Ziggy and the Zoo, and us. And so we ended up going national with these guys. And we had such a good time. The first breakup of Jade 50's was our second year, when all my classmates said, hey, I want to go to college. I don't want to do this full time. So they left, and we brought in some underclassmen from Oak Park. And they stayed with us for about another 4 years. And they just said, I've had enough of the road. I want to start a family. And I just kept going. My brother ended up joining the band, and then he left. And after about 4, Mike Arturi, the great drummer, joined. He was with Rick Cicito at the time, and I knew Mike from college. So I called him. I made an offer he couldn't refuse. He joined the band. And then we started getting a little more serious. During that period of time, a great guy named Lou Valpeno, who ran Chicago Fest and started Milwaukee Summerfest, called and asked us if we'd like to be with Dick Clark and on the main stage the first year. So obviously we were floored by that. We ended up talking with Larry Klein, who still is a friend. And Larry decided, I said, send us the music and we'll memorize the show. He goes, well, everybody just sits there and reads it. I said, I'm not going to read Chuck Berry music, Larry. That's embarrassing. Just send us the arrangements and we'll memorize them. So some of the arrangements were a little sticky. The Shirelles and the Crystals had a couple different, they had more than 4 chords in some of their songs. But, it was basically Bo Diddley was 1 chord. He did I'm a Man in E and Hey Bo Diddley in E. And then Can't Judge a Book by Its Cover was basically, 4 chord Ice Cream. And then you had the Coasters, which were really interesting, and they had arrangements, and they were really fun. And Freddie Cannon, Jerry Lee Lewis, and on. I mean, maybe 60, 70 of these guys. We ended up doing all of Dick Clark's rock and roll shows for about 4.5 years.
So now, what year was this? This
was the very first Chicago Fest was, I believe, 1977.
Okay.
So we played, and then we played the very last Chicago Fest, which was at Soldier Field in about 83, maybe, I think 83. Yeah. We were on the main stage every year. We were the only band ever to play the main stage every year at Chicago Fest. And, all the other bands that had hit records and stuff. Yeah, well, that doesn't matter. I remember, I don't want to name names because they're friends, but a few of the local bands from Oak Park who had a couple of hits didn't want any of their band members coming to see us because we were actually making money. Jade 50's back then, everybody was on a salary. They all had we got workman's comp, and I got Blue Cross and Blue Shield for everybody. And we picked up all the road expenses. So, we all had cars and homes and stuff like that. And that was unfathomable for the bands that were signing record contracts, that the record companies were taking all their money, which was just terrible. I remember working the Thirsty Whale, and we were making like $2,300. We'd take 70% of the door. That was our deal.
Right.
And we'd walk out on a Thursday night with $2,300 when, Off Broadway was playing there scraping. The record company was ripping Cliff and the boys off. Here's this oldies band packing the place and making serious money. And these guys have airplay, and they're starving. I learned all this from Mike Gorman, who was a classmate of mine, who later ended up playing with me in the 101st Rock Division. And Mike would tell us, he goes, I loved you, but I was like, how is Jade 50's making the Jade 50's? They're doing oldies. We have songs on WLS. And
I saw something where Jade 50's was the only band that was allowed to count the people or count the money at the door because you guys were getting a percentage, and every other band was.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. We brought in our own. A lot of times it was my wife. She'd come in with a clicker and sit at the front door. She was such a little doll, nobody bothered her.
Yeah.
And she'd just sit there and click people. And then at the end of the night, it usually matched up a little bit off, And so I said, no. My wife, no. She was so cute. They gave her the money.
Awesome.
So how many guys are in the band? What kind of instrumentation did you have then?
Okay, originally, the original Jade 50's was 2 guitars, bass, drums, keyboard, saxophone, and then 2 muscle singers. They weren't the lead singer. I was the lead singer, but they'd stand on either side of me. They'd each get 1 lead a night, but they would do the choreography like Sha Na Na did. And so then when they went to school, we trimmed down to a 6-piece, which was just 2 guitars, bass, drums, keyboard, and 2 keyboards. So we filled in the strings and stuff with an ARP string ensemble, if you remember that instrument.
Oh, sure.
And so I would do the Elvis. And so it was like a variety show. The first set was all 50's with crazy choreography. The second set was Elvis Presley. And the third set was the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And then we brought in a manager who was a drama teacher at Oakton Community College, Dennis Berkson, who rewrote the show and put in real choreography. And it became rock and roll theater. And that's the way we termed it. I said something stupid like, it's music you listen to with your eyes. And I remember Kenny Voss, wow. Say that again? And I was just like, what did I say? But that's what it was. Music you listen to with your eyes. And so, I remember playing downtown and seeing a young John Malkovich and Gary Sinise, who were starting the Steppenwolf Theater because that little thing, music you listen to with your eyes, rock and roll theater, caught them. And so they came to see us. I saw Sinise a couple of years ago. We did a veteran show together. And, he said, he remembered that. That was kind of fun. But that was, you remember, that was the days in Chicago. Rome and I talked about this, where you didn't have to leave town. You could play a one-nighter 7 nights a week, a different place, and never repeat in 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, and it was great. You could go on a Tuesday night and see Cheap Trick or Off Broadway or Jade 50's on a Tuesday night at some club. Yeah,
right.
And the club was probably packed too.
Oh yeah, it was. Those were the good old days, the drinking age was 19. I remember when it was 21, we used to go up to Lake Geneva to the top deck.
Yep.
And we'd perform up there. And I remember the first time with this old Dr. Papa, the headliners, holds the attendance record. You'll never smash that. The first night we smashed the attendance record because all those 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds from Illinois went up because it was 18 in Wisconsin. Sure. So, yeah, they were like, who are you guys? When we played down in Champaign-Urbana, I remember we saved 7% of the door. Well, what do you want to charge? I said, $5. Guy goes, $5? I never heard of you guys. There's no way they're going to pay $5. I said, well, That's what we're going to charge. So you'll love this story. The doorman comes walking in. It was Scott Studwell, the great linebacker who ended up playing for the Vikings, but he was the big star at Illinois at the time. And he comes walking in the door. He was a doorman at Second Chance in Peoria. And he said, "Who's the band here tonight?" And the manager goes, "These a-holes." He points at me. And he goes, "Well, there's a line wrapped around the building, about 5 people." So he runs outside. We all look at each other like, wow. He runs outside, and he comes back in the door, and he looks at me. He goes, "Well, I still never heard of you." But then we were his best friend. But the reason the line was wrapped around the doors is we started out in high schools and colleges with Tom Graziano, started booking us. And he signed all these kids up on a mailing list. And we finally got to 10,000 names, and we started mailing out where we're going to be. Well, all these high school seniors are now college kids. And a lot of them were in Illinois, and that you got to see this band, and they brought all their friends. And that's how we really got a good reputation.
Well, I believe that there's a resurgence every 20 years of the music from 20 years past,
Sure.
And in the 70s, and you probably hit it. You just hit it at a great time. The music was the music of the 50s,
We hit it when Grease came out. We went.
Right.
We were invited to go see Grease. It was down at Kingston Mine. It was a little play. It wasn't even on Broadway yet. And we just thought it was great. So we started doing Grease Lightning and some of the other tunes from the original play. Then Paramount, then the guys who wrote the play used to come and see us when we play Ratsos in the attic and stuff like that. So now it's a movie, and they're going to premiere it in Chicago. The two guys who are still making a commission, Alan Carr was the producer, but they said, "Hey, let's get this Jade 50's." But that's, let's have them play at the premiere. So we get hired to play at the premiere of Grease. Olivia Newton-John. John Travolta didn't show up, but his sister was there. Big deal. And but the funny thing, you appreciate this, Sid Caesar was in the movie.
Sure.
Everybody was like passing over him to get to Olivia Newton-John. Well, my dad, I used to sit on my dad's lap when I was a kid, and we watched the shows. I mean, God, Paul, you remember the shows? I mean, Sid Caesar, hilarious. So I go up to him, I go, "Sid Caesar." And he looks at me like, "You remember me?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Who are you? Why are you all dressed up?" I said, "I'm in the band. We're about to go on." "You're kidding." So he sits backstage and watches the whole show. Afterwards, what are you doing tomorrow, Joe? I said, "We're playing some party for Alan Carr's birthday." He goes, "I'm going to be there." My wife and I get to the party early. Sid Caesar's in the corner. Joe. I was just like, is this the coolest thing in the world? Sid Caesar. Nobody wanted to pay attention to him. It's calling me,
Right.
God, great.
Cool.
I have so many millions of stories. Chuck Berry stories and Jerry Lee Lewis stories. Those aren't good ones, but.
So how far did you travel? Where'd you go to? Anywhere exciting?
Well, yeah. Well,
like
back
Vegas,
then, a couple of years ago, I ended up on the steps of Saddam Hussein's palace in 2004. John Brandt was on bass, Timmy Scruggs on drums, Vic Lubinecki on keyboards, and Ronnie Stetta on lead guitar. And I was on guitar and vocals. I brought Mike Schlifka doing sound, and I brought Cliff Russell, who was the brother of a fallen New York firefighter, Stephen Russell. And we called it the Stephen Russell Memorial War Tour. And we toured we ended up for 1 month doing a lot of times 2 and 3 shows a day in Iraq and Kuwait. Let me think. Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar. Some people call it Qatar, United Arab Emirates. Djibouti, Africa, which is a place I'm glad I went, but I never want to go back. We would tell people, "Where's your tour?" We tell the colonel at a base or a general. We said, "We're going to go here, here, here." "Oh, in Djibouti." And they go, "Djibouti?" And then they'd hug you. "Oh, you guys." And I was like, "What is Djibouti?" And Djibouti is on the Horn of Africa, right above Somalia. It's one of the worst places on earth that all of our special forces are. When we knocked out the Somali pirates, they came from Djibouti. So we played Djibouti. The capital of Djibouti is Djibouti. It's Djibouti. But
like
playing,
New York.
I got to use Saddam's golden toilet.
What's that?
I said, I got to use Saddam Hussein's golden toilet.
Oh, nice.
We played his palace, and I said, I saw this on the news. There's a golden toilet here. They said, yeah. I said, okay, can I use it? And they were like, yeah, come on. So when I flushed the toilet, all the soldiers outside the door started cheering. And I didn't think I'd entertain the troops doing that, but I did. So, yeah.
So now you're speaking of the troops. Now, are you a veteran at all yourself?
No, I'm not. My father was a veteran. And when I was a little boy, he told me one time, if you ever want to feel great about yourself, serve your country. He's a World War II vet. And, I miss Vietnam.
Yeah, I missed it. I just missed it too. So
yeah, so I'm 65, so I missed it. And by the time I this is something John Brandt and I share. After September 11th, I called to join, and I was too old, and John was too old too. So when I called him to go on this, I said, John, I got an adventure for you. He goes, what do you mean an adventure? I said, well, it's a tour, and it includes Iraq. And this is so funny. John goes, are you serious? I said, dead serious, John.
Now, is this through the National Veterans Museum that you...
Well, I'll tell you how that started. Yeah.
You're founder and CEO, I understand, right?
Yes. When we came back from Iraq, I was in awe of what our young men and women do. You're there on the front line, and you see them on TV, but when you see them up close, they're 18, 19, 20, 23, all the frontline kids, and they're driving you around, and they're saluting you, and I said, no, don't bring, I'll bring you something. We're here for you. It was almost embarrassing how great they treated us. And I just said, we have to do something for these guys. Well, I get a call from a guy named Tony Weber, who builds museums and designs artifacts, or not, he doesn't design the artifacts. He designs displays using artifacts. And he said, I'd like to get your best idea on a museum. So he flew to Chicago, and we started at 10 a.m. for breakfast at the Skokie Holiday Inn. And we got kicked out at 11 o'clock at night, and I had napkins. I had maybe 100 napkins, with stuff written on them. And I took it home, and I put it in an outline, and I sent it to him. And that was 2005, 15 years ago. And 2 years later, we started formalizing it into a bigger plan. And it was time for me to start putting a board of directors together. I started reaching out to a lot of 3, and, they were 1-star generals when I met them, but they had become 3-star generals and colonels, and put them on a board of directors. But I needed a 4-star general, so I reached out to James Conway, who was the commandant of the Marine Corps at the time. He had just retired. And I talked to him, and I said, come to Chicago. Let me show you my idea. If you think it's dumb, I'll never bother you again the rest of your life, I promise you. And he goes, all right. So he flew to Chicago, and he says, all right, I have to talk to my wife. And 3 days later, he called me. He goes, I raised my right hand. I'll sign whatever you want me to sign. I'm your chairman. Let's do this. So we're in the process of being funded. And when that's funded, it will be the biggest museum in the world. And I don't want to lay out the location yet, because we once said the location and other companies came in and bought the land next to it. We don't want that. So I promise I'll come back and we'll talk about it when we announce it. But it's going to be incredible. It's much more than a museum. Hundreds of hologram features. It's a $6 billion project, and we believe we have the funding and ready to go from some very patriotic, wealthy contributors with deep pockets.
That's great. That sounds great.
Outstanding.
Yeah. And there'll be a lot of work for musicians, patriotic musicians. No, we don't want any of this, please end the war stuff. This is, and we don't want, please start the war. Believe me, the troops don't want war. But you got to be a pro-veteran. You have to have that kind of slant. And if you're pro-veteran, we'll have a lot of work for, we're building, of course, I'm an entertainer, so there'll be 5 stages. There'll be a lake stage. There'll be a main stage. There'll be, we're bringing everybody in. It'll be a great thing for Chicago. It really will.
That sounds great. Sounds awesome.
Let's take a time out here for a second.
Road to Rock Radio is proud to welcome Paul Martin of M&R Rush and the Dancing Noodles and Ray the Roadie, the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast. Join Paul and Ray as they bring you weekly interviews from bands that have rocked Chicago. It's the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast, Monday night at 6 on Road to Rock Radio.
So now, did you quit playing, or did you continue to play through the 90s?
Well, so what happened? So the end of Jade 50's, I had started doing a lot of TV commercials, singing them. Shasta and You Sweet Talker, Betty Crocker, and I ended up working, doing a lot of things for Freddie Hoffman and the Snuggeries and A La Carte Entertainment. At Jade, I don't know if you've ever felt this, been in the Noodles, but I just couldn't sing Mac the Knife one more time or Rock Around the Clock. I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do this. And so I called Jade 50's off. I said, no, we're done. I get a call from the festivals, Naperville and a couple of the other festivals. I said, no, I broke the band up. They said, well, put a band together. We want you. Get a band and go put it together. So I get a call the next day from another fest, Schaumburg Fest, on. And I thought, well, I'll put the Joe Cantafio band together. So I got some other musicians, and this time I got to get paid instead of splitting everything evenly. The Joe Cantafio band ended up becoming Joe Cantafio and the Giant Killers, and that's right about when John Brandt left Cheap Trick. So I had Mike Arturi, Phil Miller was on guitar.
Right.
I
played with Phil for quite a while.
That guy's something else, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
That guy can play.
Yeah.
And I had Keith Grant from Jade 50's played with us, another guy. We had 3 guitars. And then I put a full horn section together. Mike Chikowitz, Jeff Newell, Chip Godalman, Jimmy Teister, Jim Sinceri. And Paul Casino on keyboards. We brought in Kathy Shea to do background vocals with us, but 6 guys sung. I mean, we were doing Temptations, with this big horn section.
Sure.
So we called it the Giant Killers. And then that lasted until about, I'd say 91, 92. And then I took some time off. I was just fried from 73 to 92, always playing, always on the road, always producing festivals. And, I had started a production company, KCM Productions, with 2 other guys. I left that, went off on my own, and started Global Events. And I just had enough of it. And I took some time, and I went back into the stock market. I did pretty well there. And Mike Arturi talked me into putting Jade back together again. And so we did that. And, I'd call my friends, hey, we need a Thursday night gig. Freddie Hoffman goes, all right, come down to Excalibur. Every Thursday night is yours. We'll give you $500. We're all had other jobs, so $100 a guy. Let's go. And that band, I had Bruce Gordon on bass. Stuart Swanland from Marshall Tucker Band decided to move to Chicago so he could go to Cubs games. But he still played with Marshall Tucker, but he played with me when he wasn't with Marshall Tucker, so he was on lead guitar. When Marshall Tucker started doing more gigs, then I replaced him with Frankie Capek. And you can't find it, I always had, I'm a guitar player, and I'm not bad, but I know I'm not the best, that there's better guys out there, and Phil Miller and Frankie Capek are 2 of those better guys.
Oh, yeah.
And a funny story about Stuart Swanland. So this guy from Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I said, okay, we're going to do the back of the Beatles Abbey Road album. He goes, I never heard it. I was like, well, here's the record. Take it home and learn it. We'll rehearse it on Thursday. He comes back to rehearsal, and he says, I said, so what'd you think? He goes, I want to tell you something. Them Beatle fellers were pretty darn good. I said, you never heard the Beatles before? He goes, I'm from Spartanburg, South Carolina. We don't listen to no limey fags. I was like, come on. But that guy, he's gone now. Tragic ending to his life, but what a great guy. What a great band. Mike Arturi on drums, and then we had Mike Hanko on keyboards. Yeah, and Frankie so that Capek started it up again.
I'm doing a show with Frankie Capek on Friday.
Well, tell him I said hi. Give me a kiss on his cheek.
I will.
Great guitar player. Great guy. Funny guy.
Oh,
My
yeah.
daughters miss him. Get Frankie back. I said, if I ever decide to play again, Frankie's my first call. Besides John Brandt, yeah.
We did an interview with him a while back and talked about The Kind.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in The Kind for so many years.
Loved by You. He wrote it, yeah.
Yeah, and he had some great stories. He had some really funny, great stories.
If he didn't mention me, tell him I'm going to punch him in the nose next time I see him. He was with me for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Great guy.
So what are you doing now?
So now I'm doing the museum. I'm right now, I get a call to do a lot of things for veterans. I spend a lot of time in the VA hospitals for free. It's time to give back. I show up with my guitar. And sometimes I go bed to bed. Sometimes I do a concert in the cafeteria. Right. I've gotten other guys. I've gotten Ron Hawking and Bill Archer and all those guys to get together and do that. My little nephew-in-law is in Seventh Heaven, so I get them to show up and do it. American English, Eric always volunteers, the guys to show up at the VA hospital and play. And then I don't know if we're going to do it this year. I don't, because of this COVID thing. Right. We probably won't. But every year we do a concert for the veterans, American English and Joe Cantafio. And we sell out this high school auditorium at $10 a ticket. And then the veterans run the show. They take the money. We play for free. Schlifka does the sound for free. And I play for free, and they get 100% of the money, and they divide it between 5 veteran causes, and one of them is Heinz VA Hospital.
Brave warrior, your battles are over. It's time to rest your head. Brave warrior, lay down in the clover. The earth is now your bed. Is now wrapped around you, your grateful nation.
So that's basically what I do, and play guitar, and I write some screenplays for some movies, and still singing commercials once in a while.
So
life is good.
Tell me about the 101st Rock Division.
The 101st Rock Division so we were going to go to Iraq, and we were going to call ourselves Jade. And I just thought, what a wussy name. I can't get in front of these brave. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's Jade. So I said, we'll become the Fighting 101st Rock Division. John Brandt goes, yeah, who are we fighting? So I took the pencil. Okay, we are the 101st Rock Division. Everybody goes, that's kind of a cool name. So we get to Iraq.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough name. It's funny.
Yeah.
But some of the generals didn't understand it. 101st Rock Division. Well, ROK. One of the generals says, what's the Republic of Korea sending their division here for? Rock Division, ROK, Republic of Korea.
Yeah.
So they thought we were South Korean gymnasts or something. And it's just like, oh my God. I said, no, it's a band. Get it, ROCK. So, so they would give us these uniforms, the Army would. And they can't say Army on it because that's against law. So one of our first uniform, it got said 101 Rock. And we would put this uniform on and we walk through the dining facilities and the troops go, I love your radio station, man. I listen to it all the time. 101 Rock. Like, no, we're a band. Forget it, So 101st Rock Division, it got kind of scary. We're in Balad, Iraq, and sitting in front of us is the 101st Airborne. Some of the bravest,
Sure.
Rangers you'd ever met in your life. And we got on stage, and I'm like, we thought it was kind of cute today. I hope we didn't offend anybody. So the one guy goes, well, start playing. We'll tell you. We're like, oh, my God. So we did the show. The show was pretty good. First song we started off was Born to Run. The second song we did was Hocus Pocus by Focus, which is not an easy song to do.
Right.
And we're playing in front of a lot of Allied forces. So all the guys from, Norway and they were going nuts when we did Golden Earring and Focus. And so some of the 101st Airborne guys ended up ripping the patch off their shoulder, and I have a stack of patches, the Screaming Eagle for the 101st. So it went over well. We did. We busted our little heinies doing that, flying in C-130s and helicopters, and but we did it. We got shot at. Yeah, I remember one time. It's a true story. We're playing in Balad, Iraq, and we hear this rat-a-tat-tat going in the background after a song, and then we hear this big gun go boom, 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 and one guy goes, "That's us," and then you hear the rat-a-tat, and one guy goes, "That's them." And I mean, you're on stage, you can hear it. That's how close they were.
Wow.
So I'm like, "Can we still play?" The guy goes, "Keep playing." So we played another song. Song ends. Boom, boom, boom. That's us. Okay, we play another song. All we hear is rat-a-tat-tats, rat-a-tat-tats, rat-a-tat-tats. And so over my microphone, I'm trying to be funny. I'm an entertainer, right? I yell, "Could somebody please kill him?" And then you hear boom, boom, boom. And you hear nothing. And a soldier yells up from the back, "We got him." And the whole audience stopped. I laughing. And on with the show. We never heard another gunshot the rest of the show.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, you think about it now, I'd be terrified. But when you're there in the situation, you're not. You're surrounded by, you know, hundreds and thousands of people with heavy machinery and machine guns and tanks. And we got to ride and all that. So that's how we got to the gig. They
Did you
wouldn't
have
put us.
Do you have to haul all your gear and everything there?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. We hauled our, you know, we had,
And
it couldn't weigh more than 70 pounds. So I couldn't bring a twin. I had to bring a Princeton.
Yeah.
But, you know, you bring all the small gear. We brought a little tiny PA system that Schliff could figure the whole thing out. We packed it onto a C-130, onto a pallet. They put a net over it with our guitars and keyboards. And, you know, we ended up getting drums donated to us by Pearl. And we did every show. We blew the PA out. We had two speakers left on our second to last show. We blew those out on the last note. We had to do one more show in Bahrain. And I didn't know what we were going to do. I said, "Mike, do we have any nail polish and glue left to fix the speakers?" Because the speakers are shredded. We get to this gig at the NAS base in Bahrain, which is all Navy SEALs. All Navy. These are the black shirts with muscles growing on top of their muscles. These guys were, and they have their families there. There's a big submarine in the bay. And we go into where we're supposed to do the concert, and there's green grass and beautiful flowers planted. I hadn't seen flowers and grass anywhere in the Middle East. And there are 4 A7 speaker cabinets, the horn and the 15, 4 of them, 2 on each side of the stage. They got a 12-channel soundboard. They go, no, we run the PA here. They got a PA. So we did a great show.
That's nice.
Met SEAL Team 6. A lot of those guys we lost that helicopter crash in Afghanistan, but met the guy who eventually, Rob O'Neill, who eventually got Saddam, or who eventually got Osama bin Laden. And but he was a kid, back then. This is well before they got Osama bin Laden.
Right.
But we met all those guys. They had a cheeseburger place that they ate at, and we got in. We were honorary guests to go in there and have cheeseburgers with them. It was kind of cool. A lot of cool stuff. Dealing with the military. Met all the Medal of Honor winners, recipients rather. The recent ones. I got to play when Salvatore Genta was the first living recipient since Vietnam, and he came to Chicago. And I got a call from Army Public Affairs saying, "Joe, none of us are from Chicago, and he wants to do Chicago things. What's that, steak and lobster?" I said, "No, that's deep dish pizza, hot dogs, and Italian beefs."
Italian beef sandwich.
Yeah, that's right. So I called Dick Portillo and said, "We're going to stop it. We're going to do a thing at an armory with some Gold Star family members." And a Gold Star family member is somebody who lost something. I lost my cousin in Iraq. And so we did a big thing for all the troops in an armory, and then we went to Portillo's in Des Plaines. And Dick was there and met Salvatore, and Dick was just tickled pink. I said, "Bring a photographer, and if you go into any Portillo's now, you'll see a picture of Dick Portillo with Salvatore Genta. He's got the Medal of Honor around his neck, and a small picture of Barack Obama pinning the medal on Genta in the small inset." And that's it all. I'm so proud. I always tell my kids when we go into Portillo's, I was standing next to the photographer when that was taken.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, then I took them to the VA hospitals. I took them like 3 or 4 Medal of Honor recipients to the VA hospital because I have a pass because I play there. And I brought my guitar and we went room to room and they got to meet all the real heroes, the World War II vets.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sounds like you've been a busy guy.
You know what? I have a great life. I have 4 beautiful daughters. I have 6 incredible grandkids. I have 2 grandsons. I've never had grandsons, boys before. So, this Saturday night, my grandsons and I are going out for ribs. And, tomorrow night I'm taking my granddaughter out to Noodles. She likes pasta. And life is good. Life is good. Do I miss playing? Not really. Do I love playing? I still love playing, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's not like, I need to put a band. I don't want to put a band together. I don't need to do another gig. I love talking about, the Chuck Berry stories and Bo Diddley and, Del Shannon used to stay at my house when we toured. He was a house guest.
Wow.
And we'd come home at night and he'd buy ice cream and cookies for my kids. My kids, today they can't believe it. They're like, whose lap are we sitting on? I said, it's Del Shannon. He did Runaway.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, but yeah, it's a fun life.
That's crazy. That's wild. Very good.
So where could people find some more information about your museum and all that you're doing right now?
Yeah, but
Well, the museum work, there is a Facebook page on for the museum. It's called the National Veterans Museum. But we're not saying anything right now until we said something before and we blew it. So now General Conway said we're flying under the radar. And when General Conway, who's 6'4" and looks like the general, when he says we're flying under the radar, you be quiet. You fly under the radar. But you want to find out about a gig? Just Joe Cantafio on Facebook, my Facebook page. I list everything we're going to do there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time and all you've done especially for the veterans.
Well, yeah, Ray and Paul, this is definitely my honor to do this. I don't look at doing anything for the veterans or the first responders as work. Think about it. We all sleep safe at night because of them.
Right.
And so this is a way to pay back. I'm lucky enough to be able to do it.
Yeah, we're doing a show. We're doing a show on the on Friday night.
I saw that. Saw it with Frankie.
With Frankie and 5 Guys Named Bo, right. And it's to honor first responders and stuff. So
yeah,
so
I believe one of the guys in 5 Guys is a Marine, is a veteran.
Yeah. Big Bo, Jose.
Yeah, God bless him.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Joe.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
And
thanks for having us, Joe. It was a great time. Some great stories.
Thank you. I got a million of them.
Thank you very much.
All right. You guys have a great night.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
So that was Joe Cantafio of Jade 50's and the 101st Rock Division and CEO and founder of National Veterans Museum. And like I said, he's been a busy guy, isn't he?
Very, very busy. It's about time to start taking it easy, but man, he's out there working with them veterans now, entertaining them, getting a museum together. Hey, great job, Joe.
Yes, indeed. It was, he has some great stories too. And he's a pretty knowledgeable guy about the rock and roll business and knew a lot of people back in the day.
Yes, he did. Yes, we could have probably talked for hours.
But we thank Joe for joining us and thank you for joining us as well here on the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, where we can be heard every Monday night. Where's that, Ray?
On the Road to Rock Radio from the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66. Check it out at roadtorock.net every Monday at 6 p.m.
And right here on wherever you get your local podcast or would get any of your podcasts, Spotify and iTunes and you name it, we're there.
We're there. We're everywhere. We're like a fungus.
Yeah, that's right. The forms on your dippity-doo.
On your tippity-do. I knew that was coming. All righty. Well, thanks again to Joe, and hopefully we'll be talking to you guys next week with another edition of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, everybody.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music that's played on this podcast.
The music is used to promote the band or musicians that are interviewed.
Rock and roll Chicago. Rock and roll.